legends. I hope you're all amazing. I just had the unreal opportunity to go and make loud guitar noises in a stadium full of people, and I wanted to answer a few questions that some of you had asked me on socials. I do just want to start by sending out some thanks. Firstly, to all of you for your amazing messages of support and congratulations. It really means a lot hearing that from people who enjoy the content that I make here on YouTube, taking the time to leave Facebook and Instagram comments or write DMs to me. It absolutely was the cherry on the top of being able to live out a childhood dream. And like I said, make loud guitar noises in front of a stadium full of people. Andrew and the whole team at Max Events for booking me, and not only booking me, really looking after me and making the whole experience very straightforward, enjoyable, and totally chilled out and stress-free. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. I also want to say a massive thank you to my buddy and Gear podcast host, Troy Nababan, who hooked me up with the gig. Troy was also an amazing person to have around while I was preparing for this, because Troy basically does a gig like this every other week for Fremantle Dockers home games. The difference is that Troy takes it to the next level, and he does it on the roof. So what on earth was I doing in a stadium full of people? That's the first question I should probably answer. I got a call from Andrew at Max Events a couple of weeks ago asking if I was available to play some live guitar in the pre-game entertainment for the Australia versus Japan Football World Cup qualifier. This was a game that Australia had to win to further their chances in the Football World Cup. And basically, to get to the Football World Cup coming up next year, they needed to beat Japan, who are generally considered the team in Asia. So it was a pretty daunting task, and they wanted to throw a whole bunch of extra production into the event to basically help the team get over the line. That's what you do with home game advantage, right? So they had organized some really awesome pre-game entertainment. They'd organized, I think, like 10 or 12,000 scarves to give away so that they could have a sea of yellow in the crowd. And they wanted me to go out and play Thunderstruck, Land Down Under, and Sandstorm by Darude, just basically to get the crowd amped up and really vocal in the lead up to the game. Another thing that was really like a full circle moment for me was one of the event managers at the stadium is somebody that I literally grew up with, and I haven't seen them for years. My buddy Stuart Whitlock is somebody I've known since I was about 5 years old. I spent so much time at Stuart's house with his brothers, riding BMX bikes, pretending we were Rambo and James Bond, and bodyboarding, and absolutely just wrecking ourselves as kids tend to do. So being able to catch up with Stuart and have him walk me out into the center of the stadium when I was about to play was another really special moment on top of that. So in terms of preparing for this, I knew I had to do those three songs. Thunderstruck and Sandstorm formed a 4-minute medley, and this event was run with absolute precision, like to the second, because they were going to be broadcasting the game. They do not muck around with these events. You don't go a second over. All the cues are super tight, and the production team there are amazing. So I basically put together a 3-minute and 59-second medley where I played a bunch of the intro of Thunderstruck, I played the guitar solo, and then that guitar solo transitioned into Sandstorm. And, when I saw they suggested Sandstorm, I was like, man, when else are you going to get the chance to shred over that track in front of any people, let alone a stadium full of people? I then did that performance and then was walked around in front of the fan zone where they had all the scarves up, and I got to play Land Down Under and really get up close to the crowd and interact with them. And that was absolutely amazing, being able to see people so excited for the game, but with such an iconic Australian song, and really get the chance to rev them up was pretty special. So in preparing for that, basically what I did was with Thunderstruck and Down Under, I used Isotope RX10 to extract some stems from that. So I basically just removed the lead guitar parts from the tracks, and I was able to sort of trim them down to fit the format that they wanted. And then I played live guitar over that. With Thunderstruck, it was sort of a mix of the main lead part that we all know very well, and then some rhythm parts. I didn't play Angus's solo on there. I just did, kind of my version, a sound-alike of it, because I wanted it to transition into Sandstorm. And then Sandstorm was just a bunch of chugging on the low strings and then some shredding right at the end. What I did in preparing for it was I would try and practice different times of the day. So I might start out turning the tracks on totally cold, picking up a guitar and just seeing how I went. I'd also then try and play the songs when I was really limber and warmed up. Like if I had done a bunch of recording that day at the end of a session, I'd run through the songs. So I just made it a habit over about 2 weeks to run the songs at least 2 times all the way through. I also practiced on ears because, as my under 15s AFL coach always said, practice the way you intend to play. So just being really methodical, but not neurotic with the preparation. Like, I'm fully aware that when you're playing live, things can go wrong. And I didn't want to get in my head about things going wrong. I just wanted to go out and enjoy myself. And using gear that I'm very comfortable with, that I know is reliable, goes a long way to doing that. So I played my Chilier Bell Aurora, which you can see up on the wall. You can also see it here as well. So Charles Chilier is based in Sydney. He's not only one of the best Australian luthiers, he's one of the best luthiers in the world, in my opinion. This is such an amazing instrument. It's really nicely balanced, it's lightweight, and playing an Australian-made guitar while I was playing Australian music in front of an Australian crowd for the Australian national team just felt like the right thing to do. I also wrote to Charles and said, hey, you might want to tune in and catch the game if you're a sports fan. And I know Charles is a big sports fan. So that was a really nice tie-in there as well. I was able to use a wireless, and this is where things kind of got interesting because obviously being in a stadium where there's all sorts of different broadcasts happening, you need to have a frequency that's carved out in there. So they were able to basically MacGyver together a lapel microphone with some jack adapters on there. So I could go out of the guitar into the lapel mic transmitter, and that went all the way up into a corporate box where my Fractal FM3 was. The receiver went into the FM3, into the desk, and that went out into the whole stadium. So it was very interesting actually just walking out into the middle with just the guitar, and I couldn't even see my rig, and just hoping that everything was going to work. And, you know, of course, they're professionals. They made everything work for me. The track in my ears was really nicely balanced. The guitar sounded great in my ears. I just used the FAS Stealth Blue amp model, a cab, a little bit of delay, and a little bit of reverb on there. I didn't try to make it sound like AC/DC or anything like that because I wanted it, 1, to sound like me, and 2, to be easy to play. So I piled on all the grease and the gain on there. And it actually felt really good out there. It was a pretty cold night, and I did have to spend about half an hour out in the elements before I walked out to play. But luckily, I've got this nice big parka, as you can see on there. So all the support staff and the whole events team are just so chill, professional. There was no drama. There was nothing that ever made me feel like it was like, cool, you got to get out there and do your thing. They just basically treat you like a pro. They know they booked you because you do what you do. And it was that last little extra sprinkle of just confidence on there where I could go out, I could play my guitar, and I could enjoy myself. And that's really what happened. I didn't hear a lot of the crowd noise or the pyro noise or anything because, again, I was on ears. It wasn't until I finished the Thunderstruck and Sandstorm medley that I popped an ear out and just kind of listened to the roar. And that was a definite moment where the hairs on my arm were standing up. And then I went and played Down Under, and that was more just like pumping up the crowd. That's something I'm used to doing when I'm playing a rock gig. That was really, really nice. One thing that did happen when I was doing the first 2 songs was I felt a little thing hit my foot, and I looked down and the wireless transmitter had slipped off my guitar strap and had hit the ground. Luckily, the cable for it, being a cable for a lapel mic, was pretty long on there. So I just kind of had to stop moving around so much and, you know, do the Zakk Wylde power stance on there and flick my hair around, something that, you know, that's kind of why they booked me, right? They wanted me to do that sort of stuff. But I definitely had in the back of my head, like, okay, just hold out for another 2 minutes. Please stay connected on there so my guitar doesn't cut out. And, you know, that's part of the agony and the ecstasy of playing live guitar. Having that little bit of edge on there, I think probably freed up some mental space in there, was where I wasn't thinking about the playing and I could just get on with it and really send it. There are a few other nice moments as well when I was walking back into the dugout, like little kids who were waving at you and giving you a thumbs up and things like that, and just realizing that was me when I was that age, when I went to see a game of cricket or football. If you got to see the players or you got to see somebody involved in the pre-show entertainment, it does take on this extra layer of significance, and being able to go full circle and actually experience that as one of the performers is something I'll never forget, and I'll probably never shut up about it. Having said all of that, I'll put up some dodgy phone footage that my buddy Stu took. If I do get access to some of the footage that they were filming up for the big screens, I will definitely post that as well. I just want to finish this video by saying thank you to all of you who have continued to support what I do, whether it's on the channel, whether it's through my Patreon, whether it is as a fan and supporter of my band Ragdoll. Moments like this don't happen on their own. It's a community here. It's not just me getting up and making guitar noises. I have the opportunity to have the time to do that because of all your support and the encouragement and the love that you show me. And I feel like this is one of the nice things about the internet these days, where there's still these little islands where you find decent people coming out doing decent things. And I certainly got to work with some amazing people for this show. Furthermore, Australia were basically able to get over the line and get a victory in the very last minute there, which was extra special as well. And as someone who grew up as a mad sports fan and somebody who grew up watching all my favorite bands' DVDs of them playing in arenas, it truly was an unreal experience. And again, thank you all so much for the love that you sent me about this and for the love that you continue to send me on the channel. It really does mean a lot. I hope I'm not sounding, too emotional or too flowery or anything like that, but it really does mean a lot to me. Anyway, enjoy the footage, and then go and play your guitars and have some fun. It doesn't matter if you're playing Madison Square Garden or Madison Square Bedroom. Guitar is a reward in itself, and it is one of the best ways to spend your time on Earth. Take it easy, legends.